muscles and the chordae tendineae and some of the valves. Don't have to know that. Here's the trachea. And what would we find that we do have to know behind the trachea?
Esophagus.
So there we go. Here's the esophagus. Let me change that. Okay, so here's trachea. It's much firmer, and this mushy thing behind the trachea that I'm dissecting a little bit, that's the esophagus.
Okay.
And you can kind of see the opening from the top. It kind of has a big opening. This is the opening into the trachea. This is the opening into the esophagus. And the epiglottis has been cut. It was right there. That white little line used to be the epiglottis, the covering for the trachea. So you have to know esophagus from here or esophagus from, this is esophagus here, just posterior to the trachea. That's so esophagus is the third one, fair game. Third one on the list. Here's the diaphragm, the breathing muscle. Okay, so that mainly what we're interested is, of course, below the diaphragm. So, ta-da, there we go. Once again, the liver. And here's the good falciform ligament.
Ooh.
Just wait till we get to the rectum. Don't freak out on a falciform ligament. Okay, so here it is. Pretty easy to see. It's some people think a ligament more is like a long spindle-shaped thing, like on your muscle ligaments. Some ligaments are more like sheets. So this is, it's still a ligament. Look, it's pretty tough. It's just more sheet-like, like an aponeuroses. Like the lumbar aponeuroses or the Galea aponeurotica. Oh, okay, that's Bio180 stuff. Okay, so there's the falciform ligament. Alrighty, so the stomach's just a little hard to see at first. I'm going to grab it. This is probably the pylorus, this knobby bottle-like end. In fact, where the dark green, that's the bile coming into the duodenum. So this would be more duodenum, and it's pretty firm here. That's probably like the pylorus and the pyloric sphincter. So this is the one end of the stomach, and then there's the whole stomach. I'm just kind of stretching it out. This is the transverse colon under the stomach. So the line is like right there between the stomach. So this is the that's like the greater curvature of the stomach down here. Okay, so I'm stretching the stomach. The middle of the stomach is like right here where my thumb is. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
It kind of blends in with everything else, kind of like a lot of things do. There's the stomach. So stomach is fair game. Small intestines, nice view. So this is the transverse colon. Here's the ascending colon. There's that cecum. It's kind of full of stuff. And the small intestines here. So we see the small intestine, which is quite full, packed, and the mesentery. Okay, so the mesentery is this connective tissue, which is being kind of stretched open here. All of this stuff is mesentery. And then the tube itself is the small intestine. Okay. So mesentery, small intestine. Now understand that on practicals, I really do try. I'm trying to help you. I am your teacher. I am on your side. I try to use good specimens, and I put the pins and the stickers in the best possible spot as I could tell. I wouldn't ask the stomach and put the pin over here or something. If I'm going to ask for the stomach, I'm going to put the pin right there. If I'm going to ask for the the liver, I'm going to put the pin right there. I will put it in an obvious, clear spot as I deem it. You might have a slightly different opinion, I don't know, but I'm not. So if you're thinking, it's the pin, if it might help your thinking to know that I will put something in the middle of the clearest spot. Because if you're like, yeah, it looks like the stomach, but it's way over to the side, maybe it's not the stomach then. Maybe I'm pointing to something else, because if I wanted the stomach, I'd put it in a very obvious stomach spot. Okay, so if ever it seems like I'm way to the edge or it's confusing, I'm in between two things, I don't try and trick people. I just want to see if you know what you're supposed to know. I'm not going to try and trick you. Although sometimes people think I'm trying to trick them because the question is hard. It's not about tricking you. It's about just seeing if you know it. Okay, so then here is where the small intestine, the ileum, merges into the cecum. And so the ileocecal valve would be right where my thumb is, even though you don't have to know it, but that's where it would be. So this pouchy thing, a little gross, is the cecum, first part of the large intestine. Okay? Then we have the ascending colon. I don't think you had to know all of these. Ascending, transverse. Just the cecum. Okay, so the rest of it is large intestine, and it's, again, a little on the full side. This dark greenish thing. Notice here you can see a little greater omentum. A little of the fatty apron. It also hangs down from the greater curvature, it's covering up, but most of it's been removed so we could see the other stuff, so we don't see a lot of greater omentum left. But that was some of it. Transverse colon comes over here to the splenic flexure and becomes the descending colon. Notice the epiploic appendages, the little fatty tags. And here's where we see hostra, which I do believe is on the list. This is the best spot to see it. You can see a couple of pouches. Couple of pouches there. You know, those two hostra, then it gets kind of lost in fatty tissue. But we see a couple of good ones there. This might be diverticulosis. Notice how the intestines has kind of been stretched out. The wall has hardly any integrity. It's like a big wet, ball of like wet paper towel. It has no integrity. Notice here, it keeps its form a little more. So I'm not a doctor, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. It's been expanded out. The wall has become stretched even thinner. It's lost its integrity. This is called, I think it's called diverticulosis. Sometimes you get a big bulgy thing, like at one spot it really bulges out. This just seems too flimsy. You don't really see any hostra here. They've just kind of been stretched out. That's what diverticulosis is. And then when it becomes infected, because the bacteria feed on all the crap that's causing it to stretch out, then it's called diverticulitis. So now you got a double whammy. You got a problem with your colon, and it's infected. So, I mean, I can't, diagnose that for sure, but this colon seems very flimsy. This is a little more what it's supposed to be like. Ultimately, we come down here, and you can see that little sigmoid area. I'm not just making it like that. It really goes a little whoop-de-doo. Then the straight part here is the rectum, and then the opening is the anus. It's actually been cut. We're not quite to the anus proper. That's right by the anal canal, but we can call that the anus. The rectum is the straight part, and the rest, I guess, we'll just call the large intestine, except you now know the cecum.
Okay.
So,
Smile.
cecum, large intestine, mesentery's on there, small intestine's on there. I thought mesocolon we can cross off. I don't know. There's little pieces of it on this colon, but most of it's been cut off. We can, this is some mesocolon I'm pinching, but we'll just cross it off. There's enough to know, and that's kind of not that good of an example. But for lecture and theory, of course, you need to know about the mesocolon. Tania coli, it's just been stretched out. I don't really see it, so cross it off. The salivary glands, tongue, we'll have to look at a cadaver. Obviously, didn't quite get up to the salivary glands and tongue level on this specimen, but we'll see on the cadaver. Maybe we will, we'll be able to see those. Otherwise, we'll cross them off, but we'll have to wait till Tuesday to see.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'll be happy to answer questions. You want to see something again on this first, and then if we solve this, I can go back to the other model, other specimen.
What part necessarily is the hostra?
The hostra is best seen right there, those two pouches. Again, due to the suspected diverticulosis, we don't really see any hostra. This just looks like a stretched out plastic bag.
Is it